Interstate Board. The history of the Interstate Board that Mr. Tantham had told us about, and for which I'm sure we will all be very grateful, because it will be valuable information. If we could dwell more on that, it would, I think, fit and be suitable in the context of the discussion that we have. However, I do not wish to in any way disturb a certain mindset that we might have. My only request is, if we could do that a little rapidly and focus on the interstate or the history of the interstate board. Mr. Patrick.
Thank you, Mr. McFarlane. Please don't mistake my passion for being fiery, obnoxious. Right? I just speak myself out, and I want to be very explicit in whatever I have to say. And I want to get my point across to you. I want you to communicate basically with you, for you to understand what we are about. I'll try to keep my presentation as short as possible, because we are good for time. But there are certain very relevant areas which we have to touch upon, and for that it is important that you pay a little attention to whatever I have to say. I try to make it as interesting as possible. Let's start off. Can you have the slide on? This is a story about an eagle.
gentlemen, I very much understand your need to chat a little, okay, because you have been quiet for a long time. One of the wonderful things that comes naturally to members of the Anglican community is a sense of theatre. And we have seen that in abundance. So, my confidence Mr. Tandem, especially for this last little touch, one of my suggestions is some of you could consider giving that half ribbon back to where it came from. Alright? However, it is necessary for us to be able to collate opinions so that we leave this hall with a clearer picture of what the redefinition of Anglo-Indian education is. It is not nice to leave a thing unresolved. And even if it is unresolved, because it cannot be resolved, we need to realize and state it, and perhaps take it over to another time. But at this moment, it does become my responsibility in the last 10 or 15 minutes that we have of this discussion to be able to put together the different opinions that we have heard today. You are free, as members of the House, to correct me if the valediction needs correction, but until then, these are some of the findings that we are taking back with us today. For the moment, forget about an examining body called the Council. For the moment. We do need a completely autonomous, objective, accountable, efficient, evaluating body in order that this accountability in education might meet national standards. However, the Council is not to be seen as an extension of any board of education, because if it is, it defeats the purpose for which it was established in the first place. You cannot have a judge to sit in judgment on his own case. You have to have objectivity, you have to be dispassionate, but you also have to be, as has been brought up, very, very accountable for whatever actions you are taking. From the three presentations that have been given to us this morning, it is very clear that the heads of Anglo-Indian schools seem to have lost their own identity. From redefining, I think we need to do a rewind to define. It is nebulous. What is Anglo-Indian education is nebulous. Because as we have seen, and we have used this word repeatedly, there has been an evolution. Evolutions take place over millennia. In our case, it has taken place over the last 200 years. In this process of evolution, we have perhaps not found it necessary to be able to codify what really constitutes the special elements of our education. What Mr. Phillips did this morning was to attempt to do that. but that often may be seen as an opportunity for adulation. That we are good in this is absolutely right, because all of us are products of that. But unless we cannot codify it, we have nothing to go on. What is Anglo-Indian education is therefore the question which we have to go back to before we start redefining. The process of redefining has been suggested by Mr. Ganguly, where the one thing which we will take back is wake up, come out of the cocoon and see what is happening around. We might not agree with him completely, because we might like to invite the interest group that he represents to come into our cocoon, to take what is best from us. But as I said, that is a matter of debate at a later time. The Anglo-Indian system of education, from what you saw of Mr. Phantom's presentation, is for a well-defined purpose. And throughout the statements that have been made this morning, I have not heard that purpose even once. We have defined ourselves and described ourselves as a linguistic community, a minority community. We had for us in black and white, or rather red and white, Article 366, which is an article of definition, defining what an Anglo-Indian is. That article itself is likely to be challenged very soon. That article has already been challenged socially, but it has not yet been challenged legally. Socially, it is discriminatory. Is not my mother an equal partner in the process of my birth? And therefore, why should my, in inverted commas, inheritance only be through the male line? If my daughter wishes to marry out of the community, will her children not be Anglo-Indian? If my son marries outside the community, his children will still be Anglo-Indian. So there is an element of discrimination in this, and again, in our modern times, it may not happen in my lifetime, but definitely this anomaly, as far as gender discrimination is concerned, is likely to also face challenge. Put that aside for a moment. Let us go to the other issue, which is, what are the rights of this minority, linguistic minority, and its education? It is clear that we are the only community that is identified in the Constitution of India. The others are in the schedules. And we are identified specifically